Simply invoking the name Ape Canyon conjures up intrigue. For those in the know, they are aware of the fantastical story that gave this remote canyon on the slopes of Washington's infamous Mount Saint Helens its name. For those unaware of what this story entails, let me briefly paint you a picture. The year is 1924. A group of 5 seasoned gold prospectors named Marion Smith, Leroy Perry Smith, Gilbert Lefevre, Fred Beck, and John Peterson had been working seasonally for a couple of years on a gold claim known as the Vanderwite mine in a canyon on the southeast side of Mount Saint Helens. Initially they would camp above the canyon and descend down to the mine, but ended up constructing a cabin as close to the mine as they could in the spring of 1924. As the story goes, as they continued working the mine that summer, they began experiencing very strange things. They would hear high-pitched whistling sounds from a ridge above them, as well as a reply whistle. They would also hear a strange thumping noise, and found large, unusual footprints in the area, supposedly measuring 15 inches long and 4 inches deep. Around July 4th, 2 of the miners witnessed an upright 7 to 8 foot tall, hair-covered creature peeking at them from behind a tree around 300 feet away from them. One of the men, Fred Beck, fired 3 shots at the creature, certain he had hit it, but it ran off up a hill. This made the miners quite nervous, and the decision was made to not leave the cabin site unarmed. A few days later, Leroy Smith was going to fetch water at a nearby spring source and encountered a large creature coming towards him from the brush. He was later quoted as describing it as such.
"I had took it to be between 6 and 7 feet tall, covered with hair of a dark brown or grayish tinge. It had a flattish kind of nose and face, resembling a hairy man, not very large upright ears, and protruding mouth and lips like the baboon or monkey family. When it started toward me, I fired my revolver at it, and ran like the devil was after me for the cabin."
On July 10th, Leroy again encountered a similar creature while outside the cabin, and began shooting at it, with the rest of the miners hurrying to join him and firing about 16 shots total, then witnessing the creature either crouching down or toppling over to fall into the canyon below. After this, they decided to leave the mining operation entirely, but with the day growing long, it would have to be a morning departure. That night is when a battle of sorts ensued. Around 11 p.m., something struck the side of the cabin so hard it dislodged, chinking in place between the wood, allowing the miners to look outside and see 6 to 8 of these upright, ape-like creatures running around in the moonlight. These Ape Men then began climbing the roof, trying to break into the cabin, throwing all sorts of rocks at it and creating mayhem. One even tried to dig under the cabin itself. The miners responded by firing their rifles through the walls wildly. This attack lasted all night and only subsided around 4 a.m. when the first light became visible. The terrified men exited the cabin, witnessing all manner of rocks strewn about and large footprints outside. They grabbed their guns and departed hastily to hike back to their vehicle 7 miles away. While they initially swore to silence about what they experienced, their first run-in with another person happened to be a National Forest ranger who said he had never witnessed a group of men so frightened, all clutching their rifles tightly. Back in the town of Kelso, Washington, men told their story in a local tavern, and it began to spread like wildfire, quickly featured in local newspapers, creating a media sensation that was covered nationally through the AP Newswire by mid-July. The excitement drummed up much speculation and disbelief. One of the explanations conjured up was that the supposed apes were actually a group of young boys from a YMCA camp near Spirit Lake 6 miles away, who had perpetuated the attack. Another theory blamed a local native tribe. The week after the incident culminated in the Great Ape Hunt of 1924, in which many of the local men armed up and descended into the area to hunt for these apes, ultimately to no luck. Only two of the miners, Leroy Smith and Fred Beck, ever returned to the cabin site, accompanied by two police detectives and a reporter who took this photo of them in the location. After that, none of the miners ever returned again, and the area was subsequently named Ape Canyon. In the decades following, there was a local Boy Scout troop named the Mount Saint Helens Apes, likely taking their name from this famous story. In the 1950s, the Mount Saint Helens Apes were credited with discovering a 2-mile-long lava tube they named Ape Cave. In 1967, Fred Beck published a book called I Fought the Ape Men of Mount Saint Helens. He also gave interviews about what happened to researchers such as John Green and Roger Patterson.
Mount Saint Helens, a 9,677-foot sleeping volcano nestled in the wild abundance of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in southwest Washington.
To complicate matters surrounding the Ape Canyon story, Mount Saint Helens was and is still an active volcano, and in 1980 it famously erupted, becoming the most disastrous volcanic eruption in U.S. history. This affected much of the surrounding areas, including several western states and parts of Canada. Densely forested slopes around St. Helens were turned into a lunar-like landscape in the years following. While Ape Canyon was seriously impacted by the eruption, that southeastern section was spared total destruction like that seen on the northern flank of St. Helens, with some old-growth trees surviving in areas all the way up to Ape Canyon itself and where the cabin would have been. In the 100 years since the Ape Canyon incident, the story has become one of the classic Sasquatch stories of old. Like many interested in this topic, I first became aware of the Ape Canyon incident many years ago. It was nothing more than a story at that point. Many even considered it a hoax or just a tall tale. It was even contended that the miners in the cabin never existed. Many had searched for the cabin site and mine prior to the St. Helens eruption, and many have searched since then, but it seemed to have been lost to time. Then along came Marc Myrsell. Marc is known nowadays as the Ape Canyon guy, and for good reason. Through his obsessive decades-long research into the story and his skills as a surveyor, Marc, alongside his research partner Brad Angus, brought part of the story from myth into reality. In 2013, Marc discovered the cabin site without a shadow of a doubt. Various artifacts seemed to confirm this, and Marc continued his research, connecting with relatives of the miners and following up on leads of all sorts. A full decade later, in 2023, with information gained from Marc, the great-grandsons of miner Leroy Smith discovered the Vanderwite mine not far from the cabin site. All of this served to confirm that the cabin and mine were a very real place, as were the miners who alleged the attack. I first met Marc Myrsell some years ago while filming with the Olympic Project in Washington. At some point, Marc gave me a copy of his handmade book, Mountain Devil, the 1924 Ape Canyon attack and its aftermath, and I was hooked all over again. Through interviews and hanging out with Marc in the years since then, I told him I wanted to accompany him at some point to Ape Canyon itself. That opportunity presented itself around the time of the 100th anniversary of the incident. This is that journey. Embarking on this epic quest, with Mark and Brad leading the expedition, we would be accompanied by two of the Mitchell brothers, who are the great-grandsons of miner Leroy Smith, as well as Shane Corson and several members of the Olympic Project and a few others. All the gear. This is all going up the mountain. Here we go. Pack is going on.
Oh man, I just don't want to put that on. Embrace the pain.
It's on. Time for the arm circulation to get cut off. All right, here we go. Whew. All right, man.
All right.
What? No, I can do it.
I can do it all right.
We're ready, man.
How you feeling, bro?
Feeling good. Feeling like we're going somewhere.
Something's happening.
Goodness.
Oh, camera fall. Let's do it, Mark.
Shit.
Whew. In order to reach the area of Ape Canyon itself, we would have to hike over 4 miles through groves of giant old-growth trees. So it begins. Very heavy pack. While we initially started hiking in small groups, as some gained momentum and others began to slow down, we would all eventually meet up towards the top of Ape Canyon later in the day to set up camp. Some incredible old growth trees here. Look at the size of this. It's a huge tree. This part of the mountain was the only one that wasn't really destroyed by the Mount Saint Helens eruption. So you can see the Douglas firs here. I mean, redwood size. Absolutely incredible. So I'm just taking a rest here on the side of the trail. These flies are bad. How's it going? Nice breeze up here, huh? Somewhere over there is where we're headed. Could even be behind the trees. Wow. Now that's something. Holy moly. Incredible. As I neared the top of the trail, I could see a familiar rock formation in front of me, which I recognized from photos I had previously seen, being Pumice Butte, meaning I was nearly there. That right there is Ape Canyon. Made it to Ape Canyon, right beneath me. So this is the main crevasse of Ape Canyon. It's kind of where it starts, it goes down there. Very, very sketchy looking area. Do not want to fall down there. So from what I've been told here about Ape Canyon is there is what's left of a snowmobile right down there. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of shining the light, but that apparently is the bottom part of a snowmobile. From what I was told, there was a guy who was snowmobiling up here, lost control, probably somewhere around here. The throttle got stuck. He jumped off the snowmobile and it went tumbling down into the canyon itself. Apparently recently, maybe last year or earlier than that, a helicopter came in and lifted most of the snowmobile out. Apparently part of it fell off. So there's some more Ape Canyon lore for you. As I sat down to rest after the trek, I could not help but stare up in awe at Mount Saint Helens and its many snowfields and hidden sections. I could also see the Lahar flows, where volcanic mud, rock, and water once flowed down the mountain in a destructive path. This volcano would be our overseer for the next few days, silently watching us below, just as it did 100 years ago during those fateful days when Fred, Leroy, and their companions worked the mine. Wow. So we just heard a big crashing sound up there on the mountain. Maybe an avalanche or volcanic activity. I don't know, but it was, I mean, it was pretty loud, right?
Yeah, it could have been an avalanche or volcano. That was
I wish I was recording. That was so cool. Like,
you're probably right. It probably was an avalanche.
I think it was. It sounded like it was near the top.
yeah, it could have been maybe in that gully up there or even on a side we can't see.
A lot of those tracks up there are rocks falling down.
So the area I'm in now is an area where there's been actually a history of activity, potential kind of Sasquatch activity, at least the way it was described when Marc and his crew first kind of came up to Ape Canyon and were able to find and confirm the cabin location and all that kind of stuff. They would camp up here, and one of the guys had an interesting experience where they had found a footprint. Both Marc and this guy had found a footprint, and then that evening this guy had what sounded like people arguing outside his tent all night, kind of in the general area that I'm in right now. He said it kind of creeped him out to the point where he probably might not want to see one of these things, but they had a handful of incidents about a decade ago when they first started coming up here. So to me, it's curious to wonder why a Sasquatch would want to come up in an environment like this. For what particular reason, I don't know. Obviously just a question, but it's you know, if the Ape Canyon story is indeed true, they were here 100 years ago as of this year, so there's that. But I don't know, it just kind of makes me wonder. You've got goats up here, You have possibly elk up here. I don't know if bear really come up here very often, but you definitely have other animals that are up here regularly, so I guess why not a Sasquatch every once in a while? Maybe that's what happened with the Ape Canyon incident. I'm really not sure, but being up here definitely makes me wonder that. Curious why that has happened.
Of particular interest to me is the location of the event. I have been to the cabin site. It is a very difficult place to get to say the very least. Literally a fantastic place to die at almost every turn. Horrifying. I could go on, but I won't. But I'm a human being. I'm a particular kind of ape that has been domesticated. Human beings are apes, and we are clearly domesticated. But that's exactly the sort of place that an ape like a Sasquatch would love to live, because their bare feet would give them so much better traction on those basalt, hillsides of rock and whatnots. It is a closely vertical place to live, and these things are apes at the end of the day. Sasquatches, we know, have longer arms in proportion to their body than legs. It's called an intermembral index. They have a higher intermembral index, which gives us some indication about how they live, because their anatomy reflects their behavior. That's a well-known sort of thing. All animals' anatomy affects or reflects their behavior. So this is the kind of terrain they love to be in. Way up high, really difficult places to get to, where humans would just rarely, if ever, go, and they are at home there. There's fresh water, that's why the miners were there. There was a spring less than 75 feet, I think, from the cabin. There's fresh water there, there's food. Mountain goats aplenty, so there's lots of food in the area, plus the stuff that the mountain goats are actually eating. So there's meat, there's plants, there's water, there's almost no people ever. It's a very difficult place to be for humans, but for an ape, it ain't no thing at all. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I think those are the kinds of places that even today Sasquatches would readily inhabit. I have no doubt at all that Sasquatches are not far. And maybe if they're in Ape Canyon, sure, that doesn't bug me. But if they're not there at the moment, there's one not that far away. I mean, the food is everywhere you look. It's the kind of place I would look for a Sasquatch. And reports do come out of that area. I mean, to this day, we have a footprint cast at the North American Bigfoot Center that was taken in July of 2023 from less than a mile or two from the actual canyon itself. Sasquatches are there today. There's no reason they wouldn't have been there in 1924.
After the long slog up to Ape Canyon left us all collectively exhausted, we settled in for a peaceful and beautiful evening, watching Mount Adams in the distance, with St. Helens looming over us dauntingly. Tomorrow the plan was to head down to the cabin and mine site, but little did we know what kind of day would be awaiting us.
Oh, there's a marmot right there. Directly in front of you.
Yeah, look at it.
I knew he was carrying something. What you got there, buddy? Yeah. Looks like a little bunny or something.
Look at the squirrel shimmering.
Wow.
Now Cindy's gonna be kicked.
That would have been cool to see him hunt that. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's getting warm. Yeah. Get that water before I run out.
water. There's only one water source up here apparently, towards the edge of a cliff, so stock up on that. It's been very hot. I still got plenty to go, but definitely just want to replenish so I don't have to worry for the next couple days.
It wasn't until this hike to get water that the bizarre lunar landscape surrounding Mount Saint Helens became apparent. Up until this point, we had been quite sheltered, hiking through the forest with the old-growth trees, but this section was fully exposed. It really made me wonder about how forested this area might have looked 100 years ago, or even just before the famous eruption, now nearly 50 years ago.
And we have water. See how cold it is. Oh, that's really nice. That is beautiful. And it flows right straight down here. Down the cliff. Perfect. That's a beautiful pool too.
You guys stand by. I'm going to take a bath real quick. And then you guys can take it.
Okay.
Probably be smarter.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got this bottle filled up with fresh creek water. Filter right into here. Oh, jeez, almost dropped it. Here we have it. Nice, fresh, clean bottle of water. 1 down, 3 to go.
All you got to do is drink right here,
Yep.
just like this.
Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Just like this.
Up to you. Yeah.
Nice and cool. It's good.
Just gonna finish this guy up real quick.
Yeah.
On this day, we had planned to go to the cabin site in 2 groups. Mark would take a first group down to the site, and later on, Brad would take myself and Shane down. While we sat around waiting as the first group went into the canyon, that is when disaster struck. Somehow, there was limited cell service in areas near the mountain due to volcanic monitoring equipment deployed to observe St. Helens and transmit results back. This would be of great benefit to us in the moment, as Shane suddenly received a text message from one of the Mitchell brothers that search and rescue had been called. Somebody had been injured. With sporadic messages, we couldn't get a full picture, but our hearts immediately sunk. Our first thoughts was that somebody had fallen into the canyon and was seriously injured. Turns out what happened was slightly better than that outcome, without downplaying its severity. While filming at the cabin site, crew member Tyler Hall was cutting a small branch and the knife slipped and inadvertently struck his arm, slicing an artery. Blood started spewing out and quick action was taken with a tourniquet. Tyler has a law enforcement background and was able to instruct Mark and the others on what to do.
Well, here we are, ascending Ape Canyon, trying not to die on the way out. Jared.
After that, the Mitchell brothers were able to get Tyler back up the canyon, as we nervously awaited to see him and then get him off the mountain. Once we made contact with Tyler, we loaded him up with electrolyte packs in order to hike back down with help. Once back in civilization and at the hospital, Tyler received stitches and was ultimately fine, but the situation was way too close for comfort. Let this be a serious reminder that doing anything in remote places like this can be deadly. Do not try this at home. At that point, I thought that our Ape Canyon trip was over and done for, but luckily this was not the case. With what amounted to a very stressful day behind us, we again settled in for the evening, with plans for Brad, Shane, the Mitchell brothers, and myself to finally be heading down to the cabin site the following morning.
Today's the day. We are heading into Ape Canyon. We're going to be going to the mine. We're going to be going to the cabin site. It's going to be very, very exciting. 100 years later. Just incredible thinking about what happened here and the reason why we're here. Well, this is where miners used to tent camp before they built the cabin. Just found that out from the great-great-grandchildren of Leroy who are with us. Pretty cool.
Down. Coming down.
Is this rolling?
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty, brother, here we go.
Alright, man. On.
Alright, well, we'll go for it.
Do it, man. Door up.
Where we were. Whew. We're heading down. I know she was planning on coming. Building a cabin down here, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Nuts. Look at the size of this old growth.
Yeah. Well, we're right above the cabin's right down there. See that? These were all originals. These were here back then. But that one down there, where they're standing, they're sitting right there. That's the original.
Let's go. If only if they were cool with this whole thing. So I'm trying to think where the apes have been standing up there.
Up here, maybe?
Tossing rocks down. Crazy.
That's the thing. Once you get there, you'll go, oh, it's that YMCA boys story. That's different.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Oh my God. The YMCA story's horse.
I'm just walking over to the overlook. Are you guys already down?
Yep.
I'm at the cabin, yeah.
Alrighty, coming down. Sweet. Whew. Nice. Nicely done, Shane Hardcore Coursing. Wow. What a freaking area, man. Maybe this is where the apes were.
Oh, they could have been anywhere. I mean, they're getting around this like nothing.
Cabin site is down right in there. So this could have been the area where the apes, if they were real, this is where they might have stood. And I don't know, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of erosion, but you've got a lot of rocks and stuff down here that maybe they were using to chuck down there. Probably was still like pumice back then too. I mean, maybe that's why I didn't do as much damage on the cabin. But this is where maybe they were throwing rocks down. Pretty amazing to think 100 years ago. It's the reason why we're here. That story is what brought us all here, and comes straight down from that. Incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty steep. I guess like that on my butt.
Canyon.
Well, made it to the cabin site. Holy crap. Right where Shane's at. So this log was the west, this down tree was the west wall.
Well, it's somewhere near there. I mean, Mark.
So around here, this is where the cabin would have been. There's been some erosion.
Yeah.
But that tree, let's get down and check out that tree. Heading down.
Okay.
That is a big old growth. Look at that. Wow. This would have been here.
Yeah.
Put it for perspective. Check out the side of this thing.
Yeah.
If only you could tell your stories to us.
No kidding.
Was it true or not? Wow, this is a crazy moment. This is one of those stories that it's like you get this classic tier of Bigfoot stories and lore. This, I mean, the Bauman story, the Osman story, Port Chatham, Jacko, and Ape Canyon. I mean, there's a few others in the mix, but this is like the core of Bigfoot stories that so many of us read and talk about. And my God, got some apes in the canyon right now. Different kind of apes, but just crazy, man. I've been wanting to get to this spot for years, and it's insane thinking that 100 years ago, these people, so much hardier than modern people. I mean, this obviously, there's some erosion, so it looks a little different than it probably did due to the eruption, but this part of the mountain was spared. Man, this is just crazy to be here. I can't believe it. Amazing. So Marc Myrsell has been through the area pretty thoroughly. They found wires and spoons and nails and all sorts of stuff. Wonder if there'd still be anything left, but the mine is way further below down there. I don't know how the guys are getting up and down.
As we took in the experience of being at the original cabin site, Brad then began to tell us a story of him accidentally finding a spent bullet casing while on a previous trip to the site.
This is where I found a bullet casing right here. I made the boil and the noodles or whatever I'm doing, and I smoked my pipe. So I decided to cut here with this very knife, and to make a pipe tamper. And what I was going to do is what I always do, is I was going to make a pipe tamper for my pipe because I'm here. You could have whittle. I'm going to whittle one. And usually, years ago when I was young, I would take a bullet casing and just put a whittled piece of wood to dig out my pipe. But I used a bullet casing to do that. That was the initial plan. Then I decided to just whittle the whole thing out of wood.
What caliber was it?
I think it's, well, it's corroded. I think it's like a 30, something like that. It's one of those.
Would have made sense, yeah.
I don't think it's the Remington Model 8 auto loader because that doesn't have a rimmed seat, but the 30-30 does. It could be a 32-20. There's a few more.
Do we know what guns Lefevre and Peterson were carrying?
I don't know, but
I never did hear.
The one with Fred Beck is a Model 73 Winchester lever, and the other one is a Remington Model 8 auto loader, and it's got a it's clip fed with a clip, you know, and you push the 5 rounds in to the magazine, and then either let the selector down and it pulls it forward like an AK, and then you can fire 5 rounds.
Yeah. It's in the Bill Welch photo collection. I don't know if they actually were here for the one that got published.
Ask Mark.
But they do have that photo of the cabin, and they're standing right there on the...
Yeah.
With all the other evidence of the cabin previously seen here, if a battle with Ape Men did occur at this location and rifles were discharged, as the miners claimed, finding shell casings would be expected. While this spent casing doesn't prove such an incident occurred, it at least tells us that somebody fired their rifle here at some point, likely pointing to the miners. Finally, it was time to see the fabled Vanderwite mine.
All right, be safe.
Down to the mine.
Whew. So the mine's just down in there, huh? Woo! Yeah, boys. How did you guys feel when you first found it?
Disbelief. Look at it, we're like, ah, yeah, no, it is. No, no way.
Tell them what
Yeah, I'm at the mine right now.
You going down first?
I'll go. Whatever you want to do.
No, I'll get you. Where you going, Alex?
Ape Canyon mine, bro. Let's go.
We're doing our...
Here we go.
All right, coming down. Coming down.
There it is. There's the mine. Yeah, Barry Angus in here with the box.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
There you go.
No freaking way.
Unbelievable.
This is the coolest thing ever.
It's real. This is wild.
Dude, this made my year.
Case closed.
Made my year.
It was real. It was a real incident. I mean,
Suck to the back if you let it go.
so this is the Ape Canyon mine.
frog.
So it doesn't go that far deep, but yeah, there's a balloon in here.
Don't lose my knife.
You got it. That was my
Balloon, mylar balloon, little party animal flew in here somehow. You can see the distance into the mine. It doesn't go that far deep. I mean, I'm sure it's buried deeper in there, but how does it feel for you guys to have rediscovered what your great-great-grandfather was down here harvesting?
It's weird.
Is it weird?
It's cool though.
It's like a part of family history.
Still think they're a nut job for all the work to get down.
They were a different breed of people, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's so awesome, man. What a cool family history to have.
Oh yeah.
Something cool we have here are these Ape Canyon Centennial coins. 100th from the North American Bigfoot Center. So this is Cliff Barackman's museum. Cliff gave me these the other day with the purpose of taking some pictures down here at Ape Canyon, and I think we're gonna leave one in the mine as a little token of Ape Canyon. So I'm going to take this one and find a little shelf, put it in here and leave it. I'm gonna put it right in there. So there it is. There's an Ape Canyon Centennial coin in the mine. Okay, so there we go. There's the 100th Centennial coin.
Seeing the Vanderwite mine in person really made the experience feel that much more real. While the cabin site was amazing to visit, 100 years later and there is really nothing left to show for the cabin other than some small remnants, while the mine remains relatively intact. So when I stepped foot inside the mine, it made this piece of history feel very alive. Also, seeing where this mine was located on the side of a cliff in a canyon really spoke to the lengths that we as humans will go to for resources like gold.
All right, here we go. All right, we have a token of appreciation to Mr. Brad Angus for the Ape Canyon Centennial.
Well, thank you. We've been working on this project since 2004 in Marc's kitchen, and Marc rolled out the charts looking for this site. And finally we found bag man. Look at that. God damn. Let me see that. You getting this?
Oh yeah.
That's the real deal.
It's the real deal. There you go.
And this cabin on here was in a book called Shelters, Shacks, and Shanties that was written in 1901. And the cabin, they must have gotten the idea for the cabin out of that book. I think it's on page 27 or 6 or 4 or something, one of them.
So that's it. Here's the Ape Canyon cabin site. We are now getting ready to leave. It's been a pretty interesting trip, getting to the mine, seeing all this overgrown brush where the cabin would have sat, the big tree right there. Here you have it.
Our next battle would be getting back up and out of the canyon, which required a lot of caution, but we were still pretty amped up from our time spent at the cabin in the mine.
That's a wrap.
So Mark, how do you think this trip went?
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great. Except for the Tyler Hall incident. No, it was good. I didn't make it to the mine this time. You did. But you know, the getting Tyler alive and out of here kind of waylaid that. By the time I got up, I was too pooped to make it for a second trip. But I knew that the Mitchells would get you down there safely. Shane and Brad have been down there safely, so I'm so glad you did. And I could tell you were totally nerding out.
Oh, it was incredible.
It was incredible. Yeah. But no, it was a great trip. I wanted to be here on the 100th with the Mitchells. I wanted to be here with Ape Canyon veterans like Brad and Shane, but I also wanted new best friends with me too, who haven't done it before. So I'm so glad you came.
So yeah, what an amazing way to be here 100 years since the incident, right?
I know, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know. It's like, this birthday party.
Well, I mean, a lot of people hear about the Ape Canyon story. There's some doubt. I think there's been in the past doubts that there ever was a cabin, there ever were miners.
Exactly.
You've basically conclusively proven that there actually was a physical place. There was something that happened. I mean, how does that feel now? You've been on this journey for a while. Yeah. How does it feel now getting to the stage where you're at?
After about 3-4 trips, starting around 2011, by myself, checking things out, and then friends bugging me, I want to go with you. Come on, you gotta take me. That was the third week of June in 2013 when we first found solid evidence of the cabin. I mean, really solid evidence of the cabin. We got back to the parking lot after that trip to where we were parked, and I was sitting there. I was like, this can't be real. This, what dumb luck, in order to find it. It was like, it's like a dream. And that was, 11 years ago? Same. Wow. It's still like a dream. It's like
coming home for you up here?
This can't, oh, absolutely. No, but it's like the idea of finding the cabin in the mine. It's like, this can't possibly be real. But I guess it is, So yeah, every time it is like coming home. It's like when I get ready for the trip, it's like, I know. It's like when I have like a hard day and anxiety and I'm laying down in bed, man, that was a really, that was not a fun day. I often just fantasize about laying up here at camp, at night. It's like, all the blood pressure goes down. I feel really good. It is like coming home.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for bringing us along and sharing this, what is your baby with us,
No, for sure. You're an Ape Canyon veteran, Matt, now, dude. You're coming every time.
Yeah, it was a heck of a journey, and man, Shane and I were just talking about it, how incredible it was being down there and seeing that mine.
Yeah.
Knowing how hardy these people were back then. I mean, to build a cabin in a mine, and I know it's changed some extent since then, but
a little bit,
but it's, those guys were hardy to pursue this.
I know, exactly. And be able to do that trip with the Mitchells. I mean, we were joking around that, we were down there thinking about the 1924 miners, and we were joking around, it's like, who would build a cabin down here? And we were like, yeah, Braden and Jared Mitchell would.
It runs in the family.
It does.
Yeah, amazing. Well, anything else you want to say as we get ready to wrap up this journey?
No, let's go home and come back again.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
Awesome. So there we have it. The Ape Canyon journey comes to an end. We're heading out this morning. What an incredible time up here. I feel lucky. I mean, I think Mark was saying it's only been about less than 30 people that have actually been to the cabin site since he rediscovered it. And there's been about less than 10 that have actually been to the mine. So, not to brag, but it definitely feels really cool to be in an area that's so not only historic for Bigfoot, but just for the Mount Saint Helens area and Gifford Pinchot National Forest and this whole region of southern Washington, Skamania County, obviously so tied in with Bigfoot lore, Ape Canyon, Ape Caves. So it's just been amazing.
All I can say is that this was truly the adventure of a lifetime. It isn't every day that you get to visit a place quite as special as this one, especially on the 100th anniversary of the incident that made it famous. The memories we made in that canyon will always remain in my mind, whether they be the good, the bad, or the frightening. Through this journey, we added our own chapter to the Ape Canyon saga a full century later. Whether you believe that a battle with Ape Men took place here in 1924 or not, there is no denying that the place was real, as were the miners and their grand ambitions to mine in such rough terrain. Mark will forever be known as the Ape Canyon guy, and nobody can take that away from him. And in the end, whatever happened on those fateful days in 1924 will remain a mystery. But what is for certain is that this story has become an immortalized part of not only Sasquatch lore, but a unique part of American folklore integral not only to Mount Saint Helens, but the Pacific Northwest more broadly.